So the real question isn't whether the United States can fight Iran. The real question is whether anyone can control what happens after the first irreversible move. History shows that wars rarely start the way leaders expect them to. They begin with confidence, clear objectives, and promises of control. They end in exhaustion, regret, and consequences no one planned for. Right now, every major power involved claims it wants to avoid full-scale war. The United States says it seeks deterrence, not escalation. Iran says it seeks defense, not confrontation. But deterrence only works when fear outweighs anger, and anger is rising on all sides. One miscalculation, one misunderstood signal, one strike that goes further than intended. That's how points of no return are crossed. If war erupts, diplomacy doesn't disappear overnight, but it becomes weaker, slower, and politically dangerous. Any leader who backs down risks looking weak at home. And in moments of crisis, perception matters more than reality. For Americans watching from home, the most dangerous assumption is believing this would stay over there. Modern conflict doesn't respect distance. Cyber weapons don't need borders. Economic shockwaves don't need visas. Political instability spreads faster than missiles ever could. And once global systems are stressed enough, recovery becomes uncertain. There's also a deeper risk few talk about openly. Not nuclear annihilation, but normalization of constant crisis. A world where escalation becomes routine, where every few months, markets crash, tensions spike, and people brace for the worst. That kind of world doesn't explode. It slowly erodes. Trust in institutions weakens. Alliances become transactional. Truth becomes harder to separate from propaganda. In that environment, even peace feels fragile. The US still has immense power, militarily, economically, diplomatically. But power works best when paired with restraint. And restraint is hardest to maintain when fear dominates the conversation. Iran, on the other hand, knows it cannot win a conventional war against the US. Its leverage lies in unpredictability, endurance, and asymmetric pressure. That makes every confrontation more dangerous, not less. Both sides are operating under pressure. Both believe backing down invites future threats. Both believe strength prevents collapse. That's how stalemates turn into disasters. For ordinary Americans, the most important thing to understand is this. Wars of this scale don't announce themselves clearly. They creep in through headlines, economic stress, and gradual changes to daily life. By the time people realize the gravity of what's happening, options are already narrowing. This doesn't mean war is inevitable, but it does mean the margin for error is shrinking. Behind closed doors, diplomats are racing against timelines the public never sees. Military planners are preparing for scenarios they hope never occur. And global markets are quietly reacting to signals most people overlook. The world is holding its breath, not because disaster is guaranteed, but because it's now possible in ways it wasn't before. And possibility is enough to change behavior. That's why this moment matters. Not because fear should control us, but because awareness creates pressure for restraint. When citizens pay attention, leaders feel it. When people ask hard questions, reckless decisions become harder to justify. The future hasn't been written yet, but history warns us that silence and complacency often write the worst chapters. If this crisis de-escalates, it will be because cooler heads held long enough to slow momentum. If it doesn't, the world will look back at this period and say, this was when everything could still have gone another way. That's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't about choosing sides. It's about understanding stakes. Because once a global conflict begins, survival stops being theoretical and becomes personal. And the world may not survive what comes next if humanity forgets how fragile stability really is. If this analysis helped you understand what's really at risk, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay informed, because the next chapter of this story could be written at any moment. And when it is, you'll want to understand it before it understands you.